The Los Angeles Angels just completed another season at the bottom of the American League West, and we're going to rebuild them for 2025. Despite their record, the Major League roster is quietly getting closer to competing, and with the right moves and development, this team could be off and running. It is the first team that has any playoff aspirations of the Rebuilding October series, which is a series where I rebuild one team every day across the month of October. So be sure to check out those videos after you get done watching this one. And with that, let's save the Halos. As the Angels enter their second season in the post-Otani era, they have an interesting mix of aging superstars and developing everyday players that leave the offense at a decent spot. However, the starting pitching continues to have its woes, and a successful 2025 would require a full season out of Mike Trout, who has only played in 100 games in a season once since 2019. However, before we can get into that, we have to look at additional holes left from impending free agents. The first of which is Matt Moore, a left-hander reliever who has had his struggles in 2024. Moore's struggles have resulted in the Southpaw's worst season since 2021, with his strikeouts, walks, and ERA all trending in the wrong direction. However, it isn't time for the Angels to give up on Moore quite yet, and given his struggles, re-signing with the team for a relatively lower contract seems likely. It makes sense to bring back a high upside guy on a lower end deal to a bullpen that was surprisingly good in 2024. Another player who had his struggles in 2024 was Brandon Drury, whose fall from grace needs to be studied. In 2023, Drury cranked 26 homers in 125 games with an 803 OPS. However, in 2024, he's just looked lost at the plate. A 469 OPS and just 4 homers in 91 games sums it up about the best it can be, and with that in mind, the Angels should let him walk in free agency, especially considering a top prospect that could make his way to the majors relatively soon. Joining him as a player to walk in free agency is Hunter Strickland, who has enjoyed a fresh start out of retirement. However, it isn't as pretty on the underlying side. Strickland has enjoyed an extremely low BABIP and walk rate for his career, and it isn't reasonable to expect his numbers to be transferable year to year. He isn't a strikeout artist, and his FIP would suggest he should be much worse in 2025. It's a great story, however, there are better options in free agency for sustainable success. And the final player riding off into the sunset is Kevin Pillar, who's made it clear that he plans to retire at the conclusion of the season. Pillar has enjoyed a decent season after being signed in the wake of Mike Trout's injury. However, even if he decides to return for another year, he shouldn't be in the plans for the Angels long term. Staying internally, there are two prospects who can make a significant impact at the major league level, the first of which being Caden Dana, who at just 20 years old has already cracked the major league roster. Sure, in that time, he hasn't looked great, but in 2025, you'd look for him to be a key part of the rotation. Dana has a plus fastball and slider with a curveball and changeup completing his mix with decent control. However, for a prospect so young, he is near a ceiling as a starter, so it's hard to see him being better than a middle of the rotation sort of guy. Joining him on the MLB roster will be 2024 national champion and first round pick Christian Moore. Moore dipped his toes into single A for 2 games before he was ascended into double A, where he has continued to rake. While he probably won't start the season at the major league level, it'll be hard for the Angels to keep a guy hitting at this level down in the minors for very long. Moore is an aggressive second base prospect that looks to do damage at the plate. It needs some more defensive consistency, but there is plenty to be excited about with Moore. Very similarly, he is fairly tapped out on the upside scale, so what you see is what you get. However, before we can get into what the Angels will address in free agency, we need to address the elephant in the room of Mike Trout. The days of Mike Trout roaming the outfield on a consistent basis are over for the purpose of this rebuild, because we need a healthy season from the man. And his bat is way too good to be on the injured list. So to protect the superstar, we will have him DH for the season and fill out the center field spot with Harrison Bader. Bader's defensive value is a bit questionable depending on where you get your information. Baseball Savant really likes him as a defender and center, and with the league average bat, he would be a quality addition over the players on the roster when considering Trout's move to DH. However, Bader isn't the big name that will change the course of the Angels. The Angels have needed starting pitching for years, and this is the year that Angels finally address it, grabbing Shane Bieber from free agency, formerly of the Cleveland Guardians. Bieber has had his fair share of injury problems as well over the last 2 seasons, having both seasons cut extremely short. However, similar to Trout, the numbers he has put up while healthy cannot be understated. And if the Angels should sign the former Cy Young winner to a multi-year deal, it would make a lot of sense. Over the course of Bieber's career, he has posted a 3.22 ERA, striking out over 10 batters per 9 innings while walking 2. Safely put, a healthy season from Bieber would be a significant upgrade over the pitchers on the Angels roster already. Joining him in Los Angeles will be Nathan Eovaldi, formerly of the Texas Rangers. While Eovaldi has also had his injury concerns over the years, he has stayed relatively clean over the past few seasons, and in that time has been a consistently above average pitcher. While he might not be the monster that we know comes alive during the postseason, Eovaldi would once again be a significant upgrade over the current round of guys and would give the Angels an excellent 1-2 punch at the top of their rotation. And to finish things off on the signing front, the Angels need to replace Hunter Strickland from the bullpen, and they will do that in a big way with Blake Trinan. Trinan has been phenomenal in his return to the mound this season and would act well as the replacement for Carlos Esteves, who the Angels moved on from at the trade deadline. A near 2 ERA would always be a welcome addition, and if the team is not where they think they can go for the playoffs, he could always be turned into more prospect chips for this relatively weak farm system at the trade deadline. And that leaves the Angels with a roster of Logan O'Hoppe at catcher, Nolan Shanwell at first base, Luis Rengifo at second base, with the plan to move him to third after Christian Moore cracks the majors, Zach Neto at short, and Moneybags Anthony Rendon rounding out the infield. Taylor Ward, Harrison Bader, and Joe Adell will man the outfield spots as starters, with Mike Trout at DH with some room to get in work on occasion. Nathan Eovaldi and Shane Bieber head out the rotation, with Tyler Anderson, Reed Detmers, and Caden Dana rounding out the rest of the rotation. The bench would consist of Mickey Moniak as a fourth outfielder, Matt Dice as a backup catcher, Charles LeBlanc as a backup infielder, with Wilmer Flores being the final offseason addition to help out Nolan Shanwell against lefties. Over the course of Flores' career, he's had an 800 OPS against lefties and could provide an excellent role piece for the Angels. And that's going to do it for the Angels. This rebuild allows them a semi-realistic path where they could have a chance to make a run if the young players of this team develop, while not sacrificing the long-term projection of the team and providing the team with some tradable chips at the deadline.